Good evening and welcome to the first Inside Government show for the spring 2020 semester here at KU Community College and broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, as well as the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. We are delighted to have in the studio again, as we do at the beginning of almost every semester unless he's running for office, Mayor Michael D. Quill, who was elected in November 2007 and is starting his 13th year as mayor of the city of Auburn. We're going to talk to him about a number of issues, including the downtown revitalization money that has been awarded to the city, as well as several other issues, including the watershed, minor league baseball, and a new public safety building. Welcome back. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for the invitation.
How's the new year kicking off for the city?
Everything's wonderful.
Wonderful. Snow plows are out and all that.
Roses are blooming, and it's great. It's great to be alive.
Well, if roses are blooming for you, you have a large greenhouse right now. So, a couple of quick things about just city council in general. You have decided to change the time that council meets.
Correct.
What are you changing?
Normally, our meetings start at 6 p.m. Until summer hits, and then we go to summer hours. But right now, we're going to be starting at 5 p.m. year-round. So
including summer, so it will not impact. And when do you start that?
We've started
that way?
This will be our third week, I believe.
Why do it?
The biggest thing that came to mind, what the councilors agreed to, was the staff. The staff works all day long. They have to be at council. There's a 2-hour break in there for them.
So city hours are still 8 to 4. That was put in by Mr. Palish several years ago, right. And that has not reverted back to 5 o'clock.
No, it has not.
There's a 2-hour break in there.
Yep.
Did you support the proposal?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Personally, if we could start at 2 in the afternoon, I'd be even happier, but I'll go with the 5.
For some people, that's a siesta.
Some people it is.
Or if you want to go to city council, it could be siesta. So,
but you know, it's easier on the staff, and regardless of what time we start, summer hours, winter hours, it's always the same core group of folks. And if someone has something special that they would like to address, they make plans and attend.
So, and that usually is, unless there's a budget crisis where you're cutting something, or you're going to do something controversial, or has a big community impact, it's usually the same. Let's be honest. 5 to 10 people.
Absolutely.
And is it that many?
It depends.
Okay.
You know, winter, some folks travel.
Got some snowbirds in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And some people that I've spoke with personally, because it gets dark earlier in the evening, they don't care to go out.
Okay.
So
this will be easier for them.
Yes.
The other change that you've had at City Hall is you got a new city councilor.
Yes, Councilor Castro.
So Councilor Castro started on January 1st. Would love to have him on at a future date, but how's he getting acclimated to all of you, and how are you all getting acclimated to him?
It's working well. He's very knowledgeable. He's not afraid to ask a tough question to find out the answer, but he's become a big part of us, and we're glad to have him on board.
Oh, good. So one of the items that you've dealt with recently has been this issue of back taxes at Spino Music.
Yes.
They had, I think it's $85,000 in back taxes ago, a number of years. By the way, do you have any idea how long they had not paid taxes?
It's quite a while, but I cannot give you a figure because I'm not sure.
But it's 85 over a period of time.
Correct.
So they wanted a new payment plan.
Right.
So this is over a given period of time. Did the city give them a new payment plan?
Yes, council voted on that within the last 2 weeks. So.
And why do that?
City, our alternative was to foreclose on the property, and the city any city does not belong in the real estate business.
So there's 3 downsides that nobody ever thinks about when it comes to foreclosing on property. Right. It becomes your new liability.
Absolutely.
Whether it's snow removal or grass cutting. Leaks in the roof.
And whether it's a one-family home or a large downtown building.
It's a liability, so
right.
It's on your insurance, and it's off your tax rolls.
Yes.
So normally the city will take houses. Is it different for the city when you look at these tax issues where you may, in the summer, take a whole series, people don't pay their property taxes, because it's easier to, I'm using the real estate phrase most likely wrongly, but flip a house versus a multi-story downtown building.
Absolutely, and you have to keep in mind.
Is that a factor?
Yeah, yes, it is. Besides the present the owner who occupies part of the building. Liberty Store is in there. So how does the city accommodate that, and so forth and so
so
on?
you also don't want to be a landlord.
No.
So
We our staff does a great job at everything they do, but it's just one more added responsibility. And then this time of year, you think of heating, bursting pipes.
I only think of liability.
Liability, yeah. Well, yeah.
If I didn't have to own my own house, I would be fine right now.
I put on my old firefighter's hat. So
I really liked my landlord before, so he did a great job with snowplows. So, but on that, is there benchmarks along there they have to hit certain thresholds?
There are, and it's contractual, and really not comfortable speaking in regards.
I don't remember the city doing this in a long time. I know in the 90s it got cited for a number of where people just didn't pay taxes at all for whatever reason.
Right.
But is this a common occurrence where you come up with these payment plans?
No, Mr. Gothier, our treasurer, works out quite often. I spoke with him in regards to a home today that the people were in the rears on. So he does his very best to keep the people in their home and to work out a repayment of their back taxes. No one wants to be the Scrooge and throw someone out of their occupancy, their home, whatever.
And the public needs to understand there's 10,000 parcels in the city of Auburn.
Yes, there's quite a few.
So one here or there where you get into this problem, it may need special attention.
Well, it does in regards to the music. That's correct. But when you talk about a home, there's all different circumstances that weigh into it.
So one viewer sent a note and said what the city really didn't want to deal with was the issue of the Genesee beer sign on top.
I know. I'm glad you brought that up because I noticed the other night when I went home there's a light out on it. So I'm glad we weren't responsible for it.
Okay. So another item that the city has been dealing with and heard, I think the first recommendations were last week, was reclassifying some streams in the Owasco watershed. And I know Dr. Effler and Doug Selby, who used to be the city manager, talked to the Wednesday morning roundtable the day before this, and it didn't come up there. But the next night there was a question about reclassifying streams. Right. First of all, why would you do this?
The very perfect answer I have for you is I rely very heavily on Councilor McCormick and Genatino and Councilor Cuddy. They are our go-to people in regards to water.
Does it help get money? Does it help?
I can't answer that guy.
Is there a cost to this?
I can't answer that.
All right.
So I could go out on a limb and tell you this great story and then be 100% wrong.
That's fine.
I don't want to do that.
But there is a benefit to the city, but this is also a lengthy process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The other project, and when you were here right after the election, we were talking a little bit about it. You were not very far into the project with some tangibles. You might be now. Where's the city in the process of building your new public safety facility?
We're moving full steam ahead. We have selected we're working with Huber Brewer out of Syracuse, New York. They are going to be the overall boss in regards to the entire project. We had interviews.
So are they doing design and build?
No, they're doing the build with two contractors. The design, we had interviews last week, and hope to come to some conclusion very rapid. But it's moving ahead. It's at a rapid pace for the city.
So for those who may not watch all the time, where's it going to be located?
It's going to be located in the Seminary Avenue Plaza, adjacent to the grocery store, a little bit further to the east, closer to Nelson Street.
So are any stores that are currently in that plaza being moved?
One, I believe it's the dry cleaners is in there. They decided to opt out of their lease before this got to this point.
So this is a freestanding building.
It's attached, but it is freestanding.
So Donovan Luska, the liquor store, the Chinese Wok, I think it is.
Right.
Save a Lot. Those are all staying. So there's no displacement there.
Save a Lot is our immediate neighbor, and they are staying to best of our knowledge. As a firefighter, I'm saying, they have they're sitting on a gold mine. Firefighters like to eat with a grocery store next door. It's going to work out. But at the same time, the liquor store in Donovan Luska and the Chinese Wok, they are across a driveway, so they're not part of what we are.
I know, but people all look at it as one.
Is one plaza.
I mean,
absolutely.
I think there were some people who were thinking you were taking the whole
Yep. No,
parcel at some point. So you've secured the land,
we have.
and
Purchased it about 4 weeks ago.
and a couple weeks ago you bonded for it for $10 million.
Yes.
Is that the all-inclusive cost for this?
Yes, we believe so.
And so you're getting some money from the Downtown Revitalization Initiative.
Correct.
How much is that towards it?
I want to say about 600,000, something along.
And then you're also getting you've got some other grant money. So
because the old fire station was in inundation zone, we received money from New York State to help augment moving that.
So do you have an idea of how much it will cost taxpayers in the end?
No, a lot of it depends on, do we come in on budget, below budget, so forth, and everything tied in once. I'd hate to come out and say we're going to save the taxpayers $1 million and not have it true.
So who's exactly going in there? I know there was some talk of moving. Currently, City Court is in the old historic post office.
Correct.
On Green Street.
Correct.
Is that moving over to the new public safety building?
No.
Okay.
The hope is that the present police fire station, city police will take over a little bit more of the fire department's area, and then hopefully we can have city court into the other portion.
And does that save, I know the county, which owns the historic post
Right.
office, wouldn't be happy to lose a tenant,
Right.
but does that save the city money?
It does, because the money that we are paying for rent at the courthouse would go into the refurbishment or whatever for their new property.
And do you get some money from the New York State court system?
I don't believe we do. I
Okay.
don't know.
So the other
They carry a heavy hammer, though, as to what they want.
from a security
absolutely.
and cost that.
Absolutely.
The other conversation that's been going on, and I know there's been a change in government at the county
Yes,
in the sense of
yes.
leadership. There has been some talk about moving some county operations into the public safety building. What has been talked about, and what's been talked about first?
Everything, originally everything was open.
So 911, moving everything in there.
Whatever.
Okay.
But I believe we're probably going to end up with the emergency management office.
Which is currently in the county.
In the county, in the
Okay.
basement, which in case of, like we had the Labor Day storm many years ago, that was put in service for the phones, radios, so forth.
And that is clearly a low point physically in the city if you were having a flood.
In the building started to flood.
Yes,
that
okay,
day.
all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But hopefully they are, I know Mr. Deigert's working in earnest with the county to bring them to our building, which will offer them initially a small area, but in case of emergency, the operation can run on its own. There's cooking facilities, there's all type capacity.
So anything else that you would think would come over there at this stage from the county?
I think Mr. Deigert is still negotiating with the county. I have not heard of anything. I do know there are a couple ideas, but whether it comes true or not.
So you've,
But not to interrupt
go
you,
ahead.
but at the same time, we have to start moving pretty rapidly because we're about to go to hire a designer to go to design as to what we're going to have.
So that's where I'm going. So you got a designer, you've bonded for this. When do you hope to start?
Actually, the backstory of it, the administrative end of it, is working already.
No, but I meant, start digging and building.
Our contractor, I believe, wants to be in the ground very, very rapidly, depending on the drawings. Keep in mind, it's going to be a 2-year process.
So this will be 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you'll slowly move the fire department up there. Will you do anything with, Frederick Street's been closed, but
Right.
will anything change at Clark Street?
No, I believe it's going to remain just as it is.
I mentioned, go ahead.
No, you have to put your firefighting hat on. It's good to have, instead of being all in one space, have them spread out a couple different places. The river has always been mentioned on whether should we have everybody on one side of the river or
Which
not?
would, in this particular case, be the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
In case bridges go out or anything like
we had
that.
the storm. What was it? 1972, and it was a problem.
So I'm assuming the city's looked at this. Do you think this will impact response times to, let's say, to the southwest not southwest, the southeast corner of the city of Auburn?
They're moving approximately 2 blocks from where they are now.
Okay.
So,
But I didn't know with, because
no.
as you know, I really think the traffic lights are just marvelous.
Well, fire trucks don't worry about traffic lights. They
Now
worry
I know,
about. They
now
worry
I know
about
what I
them.
need to do.
They worry about them, but a little different.
You mentioned the fire department. Chief Morbido left on Friday.
Friday, he did.
Has somebody new been appointed?
City manager appointed Assistant Chief Fritz is the interim city fire chief, and I know they will be going through an interview process within the next week or two
For just Mr. Fritz, for Chief Fritz, or for opening it all?
Well, for Mr. Fritz, and then the way it has been in the past is the fire chief really has a lot of say in who the assistant chief and or captain or lieutenant should be to replace them.
So you think Mr. Fritz is going to be the permanent chief?
No, I'm saying whomever is the permanent chief.
Oh, okay.
Should have that.
So I thought I read in the paper an issue that one of the reasons that Chief Morbido left sooner than later was there's an active list,
Yes.
civil service list,
Yes.
which is its own
So
challenges for you all.
you know as well as I do.
I do, unfortunately, I do. So with that, obviously, Mr. Fritz is on that list. It sounds like.
Yes.
Will others be interviewed with him?
I believe the way it will be done is the top 3 on the chief's list, which includes Chief Fritz, will be interviewed for the position.
And I know him through Leadership Q,
Right.
terrific
Excellent.
fellow. This interview? This is not a council appointment. This is the manager's appointment.
That is correct.
And so, will only the manager interview, or will there be others involved?
I want to be clear right from the my brother is in the top 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm really hands off.
Okay.
No question.
Another very nice man.
Yeah, but at the same time, the way it's been for the last since I've been mayor, the city for police chiefs or fire chiefs, the city manager has formed a committee, including the mayor or a member of council, to sit in on it.
And obviously, Jeff Duggar, who was the fire chief,
Correct.
Did he create a committee to pick Chief Morbido?
Yes.
Okay, so
For
he
the
may
fire,
go
yeah.
through that same.
I
And we're going to
agree.
hopefully have him on
Yep.
later in there. But
Well, he has a chance to study everything I said and then just to correct it.
okay, gotcha. I mentioned a few minutes ago we talked about the public safety building, and we talked about the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. That's the $10 million that's been awarded to the city.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, correct.
Can you remind us some of the projects that are in there?
One of them, I see the property just transferred for Nick's Rides. Some people probably recall it as the convent. There was
The chapel behind Holy Family.
Holy Family.
Next to the Holiday Inn.
Correct. That transferred hands the other day, so I know they're working hard. It's quite a process for the winners of the DRI, the individual winners, to gather all their paperwork, have all their drawings, all their engineers, architects in place. So when the state says, okay, Department of State is going to help you.
So some of these projects have already started.
Somewhat in the background.
Okay, so when do you think, do they have a timeline where they have to be completed by?
That I'm sure they do with the state. I'm sure it's not going to drag out, but I can't give you that timeline. I know we do have a meeting upcoming in the next month or two, working with all the winners and with the state, different departments of state that would help assist them in their funding.
And is this the DRI committee that was appointed a year and a half ago by the governor? Is it that committee, or is it somebody else meeting?
I'm sure it'll be that
Okay.
committee.
So I noticed that Seneca Falls just was awarded a couple months ago DRI funds. Fulton is going through the process right now. In fact, our college president is on that DRI committee. Who's on the Auburn.
Ours.
If the governor still does DRI and the legislature still agrees to this in the future, do you see Auburn reapplying at some point? I know you want to get through this particular or get farther along, but do you see places like, so it's been Oswego, Cortland, Fulton, yourself, do you see you all reapplying in the future?
I do.
Okay.
There's a lot of work to it, and it's probably going to be 2 to 3 years before everything for the city of Auburn as other communities, before everything is done. But I think we would be would be a misstep on our part if we did not reapply for another grant down the road. We have to keep applying. We can't stop.
And the benefit for this all has been, whether it's been the DRI money or the Regional Economic Development Council, the Red Sea money,
Right.
is you continually are looking for projects to be in the pipeline.
That's correct.
So that you're ready to go from there.
That's correct.
So I mentioned you are starting your 13th year.
Yes.
How do you keep it fresh? How do you want to get up in the morning and say, you know what, I want to go to 24 South Street, and I'm most likely not wording this one, but how do I make it interesting or desirable to go in every time? Because you're there almost every day.
I am.
Okay.
I am. Yeah. I really enjoy it. I do. It sounds crazy. I enjoy working with people, helping people. But the one thing I like about helping people is I don't claim credit for helping people. And you learn very quickly to say, I will look into it. I'll never promise that I'm going to change this or change that, because that's not what this job is about. But I have such a great group of people that I work with, City Hall and in our other facilities. They're great people. They really try hard. They want to do well for the community. So I'd almost pay them. I shouldn't say that. I'd almost pay them to let me come to work.
I know you haven't gotten a pay increase since 1987 for the mayor.
Actually, we took 2 cuts over the years.
Well, I know. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So.
But I didn't do it for the money. I knew that going in.
So what would you like to accomplish? What do you see out on the horizon this year? I mean, we obviously talked about the public safety building, and I know that's personally important to you, but what would you like to see? What are things that you'd like to see the city undertake this year that you haven't been able to do before?
Sure. Well, going back to the fires, the public safety, I wish we could stay there forever. I started hanging around there in 1955 when my dad worked there, so there's a lot of memories, but everything outgrows itself. One of the biggest things that I talked about at our inauguration was updating City Hall. In 10 years from now, the City Hall will be 100 years old. It was a gift to the city. We have a new elevator. We have somewhat repaired our windows, but we need to.
But they're having with some cosmetic work on the pillar, that wasn't cosmetic, but some structural work on the pillars or in council chambers. Since the Stowell sisters, the Osborne sisters, donated that 90 years ago, there hasn't been a whole lot of change.
Absolutely. You know, our heating cooling systems are getting old. They're still adequate, but is there something better out there? How long is this going to last? I'm thinking of replacement windows, the bell tower, the roof, the pillars. We just placed had installed a new elevator into the building within the past year, which has been a big asset. But 100 years old, it needs some fresh. It needs some fresh look.
Do you see that as something the city will, or you, or the city council undertake a plan process this year?
Part of our bond this year is we're going to be soliciting bids. If the bond issue, we're going to be soliciting bids to work with engineering firms to take a look at the overall picture of City Hall. And what does it need?
That's not the $10 million bond for the public safety building.
No.
This would be separate bonding.
That is correct. That's
so
correct.
I mentioned, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it active? You also, people may not know this, you also sit on some regional boards.
I do.
You're on the airport board.
Syracuse Airport.
So what's your role there, by the way? I don't see you piloting flights in and out.
I'd love to, but they took all my keys away.
Gotcha.
Many years ago, Mayor Miner in Syracuse appointed me to the Syracuse Airport Authority, and I retained my seat all this time. It's the mayoral appointment. The way it works is the county executive, Onondaga County, the mayor have X number of appointments, plus the surrounding communities. There's one seat that rotates amongst 3 villages. So it's interesting.
But you're there representing the region as a mayoral appointment. Apparently,
yes.
Mayor Walsh is either continued or we'll have to review that at some point.
Yeah, within the next year or so. But it's just keep an eye, as any board, as a college board, just keeping an eye on things, make sure we're up to speed. We have a new executive director who's doing
very dynamic.
Yeah, doing an excellent job. It's just fascinating to listen to him. The airport is really, it's almost a 24-hour-a-day operation, like with the weather, snow plowing, things of that nature. Now we're starting to talk about the parking garage, the car rentals. just things need to be
And is that a
tackled.
monthly meeting? Is it a quarterly
Monthly
meeting?
meeting. Monthly.
And then you're also the New York State Municipal Insurance.
Reciprocal.
So first of all, what is that group?
Basically what it is it's a group of villages, cities, and towns that have formed a liability insurance company many years ago. And it's governed by folks from, for example, I represented Conference of Mayors, New York State Association of Counties and Villages and Towns have board members to represent their interest and to keep the business working. So.
And you're president this year of New York State.
President of the Board of Governors, which is the Board of Directors.
And how long is that term?
This is my second year, so I believe it's up to two two-year terms.
So I wouldn't want to end the show without talking about spring. Spring training is underway in Florida. I know the Yankees, I believe I've been told by a 7-year-old, kick off on Monday or Saturday. Monday.
Pitchers and catchers show up.
Yeah, so where are we on Falcon Park and professional baseball?
Mr. Dygert is working in earnest. Just before I arrived here today, I received an email from Mr. Rossi, our attorney, who was also on the board. Even though you asked me to read it, I didn't want to read it and say something inappropriate.
So so there is still the thought that professional baseball will not be here in 2021 as far as Major League Baseball is concerned.
I cannot speak for Major League Baseball, but the feeling for Auburnians in the government, we're going to have a baseball team.
When do we will not, or
we will.
Some type of professional, think you will?
My glass is always half full.
So let me give you the backside, because that's obviously what's been talked about. If you don't have a professional team, do you think Major League Baseball, because this is a city asset, this is not a group of investors.
Right.
Those investors were removed from leadership in 1988 or 89. It's now owned by the city as an asset. Right. Do you think Major League Baseball should or will compensate the city if you don't have a minor league team?
My gut is saying no.
Okay.
You've
read enough about the owners, haven't you?
It's big business.
But there's a value that would be lost in us. Forget the whole that there'd be a value lost to the community. Right. There's an asset that would be lost as well.
Look at the city of Batavia. They lost their ball team, and thanks. Keep in mind when you talk about Florida and so forth, Vero Beach is the home of the Dodgers. They will be, tell your son that they'll be in spring. He's a Yankee fan probably, but the Dodgers will be in Vero Beach. So
gotcha. So if there's not, so when do you think before the start of because you just lost another general manager, you've got a new fellow who just has been moved up.
Correct.
Do you think you've stabilized management for right now, and this is the management team you'll go into the spring with in summer?
That's my hope that we do, but at the same time, because the uncertainty of it, everyone is up in the air. Are we going to have a team? We're not going to have a team. But I'm comfortable with the management that we have now to continue on.
And the city manager happens to be the fellow who is the chair of the board.
Absolutely.
And
he's the president.
He's the president.
Yes.
Well, hopefully we'll have you back in a couple of weeks and we talk some baseball, or we'll ask him.
Yeah.
You send him as your designated hitter on that one.
Mr. Dygert does a great job. I don't push him to do anything.
Gotcha.
He's very knowledgeable.
Well, we do want to thank Mayor Quill for joining us again, as he has done every semester here. It's always terrific to have you here.
Thank you.
Hope you come back in for some future updates.
Anytime. Thank you for the invitation.
We'll be back in a moment with a discussion of the Auburn Regional Media Access, better known as ARMA. We'll have the president of the board, Bob Pennefeather, Vice President Steve Keeler, and their treasurer, Carrie Idell, to talk about what ARMA is and what they do. We'll be back on Tuesday with Auburn Superintendent of Schools, Jeff Perazzola, as he and his staff put together a budget to be put before the voters in May. In the coming weeks, we'll have representatives of the Cuyahoga County Health Department talking about lead, smoking, and vaping, all separate subjects, as well as women's health. And we'll have next Thursday, Director Melody Brooks will be presenting 3 plays at Cuyahoga Community College on Friday, February 28th and Saturday the 29th, including on Saturday, Suffragettes from the Stage, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. This spring, we're also hoping to bring you the Auburn Large School District Forum, a forum in April, special election for the 50th Senate District, and also the 3 Democratic candidates running for the 24th Congressional District to face off incumbent John Kakko. We've already heard from one of those who've agreed, so we hope to bring you that as well. Before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can send your ideas for guests or questions to Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page. You can send them to cozguytho@aol.com, or you can mail them to Inside Government, 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York. I'm Guy Cosentino for QU Community College. We want to thank you for watching. We hope you have a good night, have a great tomorrow, but stick around for Beyond the Front Page.